You have to be really intentional about putting a team together.
I was in!
Crawled out of the pound and started screaming.
How good is Joey Bosa?
Herbert, rolling, looking, throwing, end zone, touchdown! It's intercepted. Derwin James. Derwin was there.
You got to be on a mission every day in the NFL. But even more than that, you got to be on a mission together.
Great hands, Keenan Allen.
The Los Angeles Chargers select Rashawn Slater.
Asante Samuel Jr.
Stop! Oh, I'm stopping y'all boys. I can't catch it.
Intercepted. Picked up by Michael Davis.
Explosiveness from Eckler.
There's RP4.
He blew that up, didn't he?
It is picked off. Nasir Adderley. 50-50 ball is 100%. Mike Williams.
Uchenna, Nwosu, and that will end it.
Time to bolt up.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Today's show, of course, is being brought to you by Charger Bolt Family, Brewery X, UFC Fit, and Manscaped. Make sure you use the promo code LAFB20 to get 20% off your next purchase. Go to manscaped.com for more details. If you are joining us live, I know we got preseason football going on right now, but make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help this channel grow as we'll be bringing you Chargers content throughout the entirety of the season. Dan, we're 48 hours away, man.
40
actual Chargers football. I don't give a damn if it's preseason.
I don't
for this for a long
care if it's preseason. I don't care if it's fourth string. I don't care if it's you out there wearing the helmet. We get to see live Chargers football this weekend. Guys, I cannot wait to see this game. It's going to be fun. We get to see live action in pads. But before we get into that, folks, if you are coming in for the first time, you found a good show because we are going to preview week one of the preseason against the Rams. We're also going to be going into some of the things we saw recently as of today in regards to training camp. But before we get into that, this episode is brought to you by Charger Bolt Family. They're a fantastic organization that does all kinds of memorabilia for all of your needs for all the Chargers. They actually have a junior say-out event coming this week. I want to say it's the August 28th at 6 p.m. They're doing all kinds of raffles, all kinds of giveaways. The Junior Seau family is actually going to be there as well. Really, really cool opportunity. You can donate any kind of raffle that you may have if you want to. But yeah, check out Charger Bolt Families. Tell Ken we say hello. You can find them on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. Charger Bolt Family for all of your memorabilia needs. You can get anything signed for Chargers stuff. Jake, so we're talking preseason football, and for folks who are wanting questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and we'll be happy to bring them up and talk about them as we can. First of all, shout out to Favi. Again, I am notorious for being terrible with saying names.
No, that's
Let's
me.
go.
That's me. I'm notorious
both of
for
us
saying names improperly.
It'll be both of us, but shout out from New Zealand, Jake. What time is it in New Zealand right now?
Man, I don't know. It's like me and names. I don't know time zones. Come on. At least beyond the U.S., I don't know time zones that well.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Shout out Cameron, Nia. Thanks for the wave. Thanks for the hello. Jake, we're going to see a lot of Chargers players this weekend, but you know who we're not going to see?
There's a bunch of players we're not going to see.
Pretty
there's
much
a bunch of Chargers players this week, but there's also a bunch we're not going to see.
Pretty much anyone that is anyone on this team that has already proven themselves is not going to play. So, Jake, before we get into all the specifics of who's all not playing, what is your feeling on the idea of resting a bunch of your starters and potentially having them rusty come week one?
Look, let's go down the list real quick. Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Brian Bulaga, Corey Linsley, Linval Joseph, Derwin James. If I've missed any, I apologize. But do any of those players to you sound like they're going to suffer from 3 weeks of rust? It's not like they're not practicing. I get the whole aspect of in-game reps. But does any one of those players to you sound like they're going to be rusty come week one? or not come out of the chute flying.
I'm not worried about a damn thing about those guys.
Neither am I. But you know what? I mean, I understand the argument for some people out there saying, well, I would have really liked to see Justin Herbert get a couple of in-game reps in because it's a new offense. Let's not forget, there was no preseason last year, 0. And Justin Herbert came in 15 seconds notice and went in against Kansas City. And, hey, ho-hum, no big deal. Just decided to go off and have one of the greatest rookie seasons in the history of the NFL. But I digress. You talk about these guys that Staley announced today. Derwin James absolutely never should see the field in preseason. Put him in bubble wrap right now. I don't care. The guy's already proven that he's ready to go. Keenan Allen is in that department as well. Corey Linsley, Brian Bulaga, I think they're being a lot more cautious with him. We know the back injury that he came back from last year, and it seemed like he would only be in for a couple of plays every game before he'd have to go out for the same ailment. Thankfully, it sounds like now he's fully recovered from that. Corey Linsley, I know that they're kind of easing him back a little bit. I don't know. I mean, he says he's not going to play throughout the preseason. Okay, I thought they would be, they may give him a little bit of reps, but I'm not worried about it again. He's been playing for a long time. Austin Eckler, not worried about in the least. I mean, I think this was the smart move to do. You talk about a coach who actually prioritizes health, one of the biggest Achilles heels of this team for over the past decade.
So refreshing.
Good. I love it. Sit him down. I don't want to see him for the next 3 weeks unless it's in practice.
You heard Brian Bulaga talk about it too, how the coaching staff, especially Brandon Staley, has kind of taken onus to listening to the players, and whether or not they actually listen and follow through with what the players want, different story. But they're listening to feedback from the players, and they are putting their safety and health first to get to week 1. And Brian Bulaga talked about the struggles he had last year in the sense that that back issue he had is nothing new, and he hadn't had to deal with that, and that kind of trickled into so many other issues that he had last year. And so, no, I don't think Brian Bulaga needs to prove anything this year. If he can stay healthy, Brian Bulaga is legit. Same with the rest of the guys you named off. The reason that, in my opinion, the reason we have preseason games is to let folks prove themselves who need to prove themselves. It's not necessarily about practicing game reps. I don't think that's what sure, it's a little bit of that. But I would much rather be a little quote-unquote rusty in the first quarter of first preseason than lose my starting strong safety for the year before he even has a snap. Now, sure, it's a risk, but it is what it is. Real quick, we got some folks saying hello. By the way, Jake, it is 2 p.m. on Friday in New Zealand right now.
Got it. Wow.
So does that mean he's already seen the games that we're playing right now? So he knows the answers?
It's not the future, okay?
Shout out to Thunderbolts 24. Hello, Dan and Jake. Hello, guys. We have someone asking and talking about this week already, Jake. And this is going to go into what I think is important in preseason. Not necessarily for one particular person, but because we're going up against a Washington football team who arguably has the best defensive line in football and arguably a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL in Chase Young. Colin Murphy with the comment, Chase Young is that dude. This rematch is going to be so fun to watch week 1. I believe Chase Young already has had a strip sack in this preseason game today.
Yeah. I think it may have been the second play of New England's snaps when they were on offense that he beats Isaiah Wynn, I believe, and gets in there on Cam Newton for a strip sack. I mean, talk about Chase Young's already made this preseason game more entertaining than last week's Hall of Fame game in one single play. So you think he's in preseason form, ready to go? I cannot wait to see a week 1 matchup between Chase Young and Rashawn Slater, who, by the way, dominated him when both of these guys were in college. So you think that these two have not circled this game and prioritized it high for both of them? Whew.
Now, funny, or I guess not funny, but interesting. Duke Manyweather, one of the guys who has been help coaching up the offensive linemen for years and has been training Rashawn Slater very, very many times, has already commented on Chase Young, and he has showcased how his hand have gotten much faster. So clearly he has seen something from Chase Young that is different than in years past. So this is a matchup that a lot of Chargers fans and Rashawn Slater, everyone talks about, but Chase Young has also been hearing the noise too. And do you think he wants to go out there and get beat by him again? Like, that's going to be blockbuster. But again, and this is the amazing and incredible part about having a Joey Bosa on this team is, sure, Chase Young is incredible, but if we can see Rashawn Slater do this well against a Joey Bosa, I'll take him against anybody in the NFL. It doesn't matter to me. Like, if he can perform at that high of a level, bring it on. It doesn't matter. So offensive line specifically, there are some guys, i.e. a Lindsley, or maybe like a Boucher, or maybe, well, not a Boucher, maybe a Matt Filer or a Brian Bulaga, where we know who they are. Rashawn Slater could use the reps. He's a rookie. Oday Boucher has struggled at times. He could use the reps. Those guys are going to play. And you think about other positions, like there's a running back battle going on right now. There's a wide receiver battle going on right now. There's a tight end battle going on right now. There's all kinds of battles. That's what preseason's for. Who's going to prove themselves? Who's going to stand out in the pack? Jake, when you look at preseason, what do you want out of these games?
I mean, this is going to go in a lot to what I've been talking about with Staley, probably since we hired him. And this is the one thing that we wanted to see was his acumen for player development. So yes, to your point, sitting these guys, as much as we would love to see any one of them play and to get out of there because we're anxious for the NFL to return, but as much as we'd like to see him play, yes, at crucial positions like this, as you mentioned, wide receiver, running back, how about develop that offensive line depth a little bit so that maybe if, God forbid, something should happen, the drop-off between one player to the next is not so substantial as it has been in years past. So in this case, for this game, getting Scott Quessenberry a little bit more reps at center, getting Trey Pipkins, for example, if he's going to come in and start at Bulaga's spot at right tackle. I know he can play both the left tackle and the right tackle, but if that is indeed their plan that they end up starting him for this game, I like to see him get a little bit more reps. Storm Norton's going to be getting some more reps in that circumstance. But this is going to be the story throughout on both sides of the football is you get a lot of these guys, your second and your third string guys, full games to go. Build up their conditioning, give them a handful of reps because you may not think it, but there is a handful of positions that truly need a lot of evaluations because we have to shave the roster down to, I can't remember the exact number, but I think that we had to shave it down to 80, if I'm correct. I may be wrong on that number, but I believe it's 5 players that we have to cut after this game on Saturday. So the cuts are already going to be starting after this weekend. So to get evaluation in a now shortened preseason where you only have three games this time, and for a number of guys, whether we're talking second, third string, undrafted free agents, whatever you want to say it, that are battling and jockeying for position on this team, this is a great opportunity for them. And I love this fact because this was always one of the things that I thought was tough, especially the way that the undrafted free agents have had to deal with, last year with everything with COVID and obviously not getting their opportunities to shine, whether it be at the combine or the pro days or just limiting any exposure from them. And now on top of that, shortening the preseason by 1 week. I mean, you now limit someone's opportunity to chase after their dream. They're going to come hungry. And I'm excited to see what that holds in store for this roster.
To be honest, I was thinking about how we're going to go over this kind of week or preseason game 1 preview. And we could talk about the Rams and their second, third string guys and if Stafford's going to play, but this season, we're not playing the Rams in the regular season. Like, if we're being completely honest, I really don't care about the defense, about the team we're going up against. I only care about the guys that we have on our team. So personally, I don't know if it does any justice to talk about what's going to be a Darrell Henderson-led running back stable because Cam Akers is out. Like, that doesn't. So I don't think we should get into that today. Like, I don't think people are wanting that. What I do think is important, these next 3 preseason games, Jake, are going to be arguably the biggest 3 games of some of these guys' lives. Who do you think has the most, and it doesn't have to be one person, but who are the guys who we feel have the most to gain or most to prove in this game? I'll start it off. I'll give it one because I know I put you on the spot. A guy I'm thinking of right off the bat is like, and I don't even know if they're going to get the opportunity, but someone like a Joe Reed, KJ Hill. Like, those 2 guys, I think, are desperate to showcase their talents and desperate to be able to make plays. Now, whether they can, I don't know. But the wide receiving core right now looks like both of those guys are not on this team. So those 2, for me to start out with, are the 2 that are needing to show up this preseason, or else they're not going to be on the team.
Right. And on top of Keenan Allen not playing this game, it doesn't sound like Mike Williams is going to go either, because it was reported today that he has, a hip flexor injury. I guess that's what he's dealing with. But in the grand scheme of things,
have your hip flexor in preseason. Like, I don't care.
Yeah. But in the grand scheme of things, yes, this is kind of a, it's a blessing in disguise, if you will, for the rest of the guys that are on this roster. Again, the Chargers wide receiver group right now is insanely deep, and talking about guys jockeying for position, because you only have 1, maybe 2 spots for this roster, depending on how many they keep, that are up for grabs. So yeah, as you mentioned, guys like Joe Reed, guys like KJ Hill, getting them as many reps as possible to see who's going to duke it out for this, for that last spot. And if I'm Joe Reed, I'm coming with everything that I've got. I'm making the most with every opportunity, because as of right now, he looks like he's on the outside looking in. But I'm excited to see, obviously, Josh Palmer in his first preseason game action. You talk about Austin Prohl, the noise that he's been making during the preseason. Guys like Jason Moore, who made the final 53 last year, albeit for a very short time, come week 1 and week 2, but he still made the final 53 last year. So I'm excited for this group of guys to come in and duke it out and have another competition. As you said, Dan, it's probably one of the easiest, low-hanging fruit to talk about the competition and, how close it could be over these next 3 weeks for that position group. Absolutely. Running back is definitely another one. I think Austin Eckler being out, now you give a whole handful of reps to Josh Kelley, to Larry Roundtree, to Darius Bradwell, to see them go up against one another. As of right now, it looks like Joshua Kelley has a little bit of a hold on, I'm sorry, I didn't even mention Justin Jackson. So Justin Jackson will obviously.
I was like, whoa, here we go.
Yeah, sorry. Justin Jackson obviously is going to be featured to start in this game. But yeah, for that running back 3 spot, it looks like Joshua Kelley has a little bit of a lead over Larry Roundtree, because I think he's been making a little bit more noise in practice. But I'm still stoked on Larry Roundtree. I think that the position battle for that RB3 spot could be extremely fluid. That could change week to week, depending on how Staley is going to utilize their reps, and when is going to be something very interesting to see. But again, you were talking about who specifically, or what other position groups I see that it possibly has the most to gain off of this. How about middle linebacker as well? I would love to see some noise made there, because there are a couple of individuals that I know that are jockeying for positions. Your boy, Ben Lakuta, as you like to call him, the safety spot. He'll obviously get a little bit more reps in the game. Maybe even on the interior defensive line with Linval Joseph sitting out. Obviously, Jerry Tillery and Justin Jones are going to play. So I'm just excited to see a bulk of this game. I don't care that Chase Daniel is the starting quarterback for this game. I'm just excited to see the progression and hopefully seeing the development of the depth that we have, because we know that at some point in the season that's going to come up and be huge.
Totally. And Favi puts out a comment about being excited about, and I'm terrible with names, but I'm going to try it. Obengamiga, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Middle linebacker. You mentioned the linebackers before. I forget which podcast I was listening to. I want to say it was Daniel Popper talked about it on one of his shows that he was on. But he talks about on the second and third team that the Chargers were letting him be the sole linebacker out there on the field on 11-on-11s, which says a lot about how much they put trust in him to be able to secure plays. So I think he's got a good shot to be on this team. Real quick, Jake, shout out to Zach Whitaker. Let's go, fellas.
What's up, man?
What's up, Zach? Long time no talk. We have someone in here, Blue Deftone, friend of the show. We talked about this at the top. Blue Deftone, which, by the way, Blue Deftone, what's your actual name? I don't think your name is Blue, but let's call you Blue. He asked about Justin Herbert, all the others not playing in preseason. In short, we talked about it. We love it. I don't think it's nearly as important for these guys to play as it is for these guys to be healthy. Jake, I believe that's basically what you said as well. Colin Murphy, I'm excited for Rumph. Diamond in the rough, baby.
Stand on that soapbox of yours, Dan. Stand on that soapbox proudly.
I'd like to see him perform and maybe climb up the depth charts a bit. Jake, where do you see the ceiling for Chris Rumph on this depth chart?
I think he's going to make more noise much quicker than you think, Dan.
Than I think?
Well, I'm sorry. Maybe not more than you think because, sorry, your ceiling is way out there. Sorry.
To the moon.
I have to remember who I'm talking to here. No, I think he's going to make more noise than most people think in these preseason games. If it were me personally, I mean, I think his ceiling is still, does he need some development? Yes. As of right now, do I see him any more? Do I see him over Kyler Fackrell? Do I see him over Uchenna Nwosu? No, obviously I don't see him over Joey Bosa, but do I see him as a situational third down pass rushing option? Absolutely, I do. So it'll be interesting to see what these next 3 weeks hold in store for him. And I'll be more excited to see how Staley unleashes that.
Pun intended on the unleash. I like it. Good job, Jake. One guy who I don't think anybody would be remiss to hear us not talk about because we have been on this train since day one. Friend of the show, Nasir Adderley, I think could really, really, really use this preseason.
Hey, you had a nice day in practice today.
Yep. Was it a one-handed interception off of a tip?
One-handed interception.
Yep. So Nasir Adderley, a safety that we both have been so high on, the one that Daniel Jeremiah said was the perfect pairing for Derwin James, just has not been able to get enough reps. Last year, battling injuries all year, much more severe than folks had heard of, and he just had to battle through, wasn't healthy, is healthy now. He needs these reps. This team needs him to get these reps. He's already starting to get a little bit more in the zone in practice. You can kind of see some of his playmaking abilities show up, but he could use this. Does he necessarily need it to be the starting safety? Like, I think he's got that job right now, but he also has folks kind of nipping at his heels. Like Alohi Gilman has shown out. Like, he's looked good so far. Do I think he's going to take over for him? Do I think Mark Webb could potentially take over for him? Like, they could, but I think right now this is Nas's job to lose. So this is a really big preseason for him. And I think in terms of like who has the most to prove, he's going to win over this entire fan base. Like, imagine, Jake, if he gets an interception in a couple days, takes it to the house. This place is about to blow up if he performs.
Look, man, it's not just his fault that we haven't seen the combination of him and Derwin James out there. And you're talking about injuries. Derwin James is going to say, hold my beer, dude. Like, give me a break. Nobody wants to get back on the field and perform than Derwin James does. That is a fact. So, yes, I'm excited to see this combination. I think it's only going to make Nasir Adderley's play better. And yes, in this defensive scheme, for as creative as they're going to be with Derwin, it's only going to allow the rest of the pieces in that secondary to be interchangeable. We've already seen it for when Staley's talked about when they bring Derwin up to be in the slot position or to even possibly disguise a blitz, they're going to put Chris Harris back in his position. So you're going to see an influx of Chris Harris at a safety position. What? Not something that we really thought was going to be taking place this year. But this is how creative he's being, if that just gives you any type of insight. So the play style of both of these guys, and as Daniel Jeremiah said, Nasir Adderley is the perfect complement to Derwin James once upon a time when he was first drafted. I still believe that to be true. I just want to see it in a regular season game.
Yes,
so,
please.
I can't wait. Derwin seems to be making every single secondary player better, it seems like, recently. So looking forward to it.
100%. First time guest, James Wagner, is first time catching us live. James, welcome. Thank you for joining. He says, loves the content you guys put out there. Real solid. Get them bolts. We're about to get them in 3 weeks when we get to play week 1. Shout out, James. Thank you for listening. Favi has a question. Are we banking on the development of these defensive tackles? Because even the depth is not looking too well. Talk about it, Jake.
Favi. Bravo to you, sir. Bravo to you. If you happen to catch our earlier position breakdown that we did a number of weeks ago, this is one of the positions, as far as depth goes, that scares me to death. And that's why I'm more excited for the fact that Linval Joseph is sitting out in this game, because we really need it. Essentially, Justin Jones is on his contract year. Jerry Tillery is definitely in a make it or break it season. And beyond that, you go out and you sign Christian Covington in free agency. You have Cortez Broughton, who has been making noise lately in practice. Again, for a guy who was a late round pick as he was, it's nice to hear his name every once in a while. So I'm very interested to see the development of it. But as far as depth goes, everything's kind of up in the air right now. So it has a big question mark on it. So fingers crossed at this point. But if we can trust the development aspects of Staley and what we've been hearing lately from camp, it could be something. Who knows? But yes, I have to admit, I've been nervous about it for weeks. I'm still nervous about it today. I'm hoping that it definitely that it ends up becoming a better situation than what I think it is.
Yeah, and Fabio brings up a good point. And the guys ahead need to prove something. Like this defensive line outside, this interior defensive line specifically, like they've got a lot to prove. They have a lot to work on. Jerry Tillery, this is a huge year for Jerry Tillery. Like Chris Rumph is on his heels. Justin Jones, big year for him. Cortez Broughton, like Linval Joseph, we know what he brings. In my opinion, like I don't think he necessarily needs to play. I know what he is. He's a mountain of a man. He's good. Those other guys have to step up. The more athletic folks within the interior are what Brandon Staley is banking on. He has to get those guys towards the pass rusher, towards the passer, or else we're not going to do well. That's just how it works. Defensive line has to perform. One of the guys that I think is going to be really interesting to keep off the field, who's had an amazing camp so far, and you talked about it with Chris Harry, where you asked the question if potentially having him become a safety or more of a hybrid. Kyzir White, ladies and gentlemen, is having himself a camp. I think he's had 2 pick sixes, I believe, so far.
He had another one today.
The kid is balling. And we talked about like how versatility is important in these types of schemes. He is making the most of his opportunity to where, like similar to a Drew Tranquil, like it's hard to keep these guys off the field when they're making plays. And it was funny. I don't know if you remember this, Jake. When we had Drew Tranquil on the show, he had mentioned how, like, in this new scheme, you want to get a bunch of guys flying around, a bunch of folks in the secondary, and Drew Tranquil is almost kind of taking it personal. He's like, I don't want them to give us to be able to take us off the field. Like, I want them to have at least 2 of us on the field at all times. Like, Kyzir White is making that reason more so. Like, if you have a Kyzir White along with a Kenneth Murray and a Drew Tranquil, like, all 3 of those guys can fly. Like, that's a damn good trio to have, like, as a nucleus. Not to mention, like, Uchenna Nwosu, who's technically, I guess, an edge, but, like, the linebacking core is going to be good. I think Kyzir White, this is a big spot for him too, to see how far he can go. Brandon Faison, I think this is a big spot for him. That he's been out with family quote unquote issues. I'm not quite sure what that is, but he has a chance to come back. I don't think Mark Webb is going to be playing in this game. He's just shy of being ready to go, but Brandon Staley said today that he thinks he's good. Alohi Gilman has been showing up a lot in training camp, Jake. Do you think he's safe on this roster?
What, you only have 5 safeties right now, maybe 6 if I'm not naming off someone that we're really not expecting to make this final roster.
Like
Derwin James,
Sales.
Nasir Adderley, Alohi Gilman, and all of a sudden, who am I missing? Mark
Ben
Webb,
DeLuca.
and then Ben Lakuta, or Ben DeLuca, as you like to go. The other way. Sorry. See, you're rubbing off on me. Yeah. So, no, I mean, his position's safe. Again, for him, I think it's the biggest impact for him is going to be special teams. The reason I came up with the whole Kyzir White aspect, and remember, that was right before training camp took off when we had Chris Harry on the show, and when I came up with that idea, is because I still believe, we were just talking about the interior defensive line. This is the other position as far as depth goes that I'm a little bit worried about. Now, have those worries been put to bed over the last couple of weeks, especially from what I've seen from Mark Webb? Yes, they have. It's been a very, very nice surprise. But I still think when you get closer towards the regular season and those rounds of cuts that every single team has to do every single year, there's always some surprise names that you have to keep your ear out for. So if there is one in the secondary that just so happens to be a safety, I don't think the Chargers should shy away from possibly bringing in another veteran camp body. I think it would be the right thing to do just from a depth perspective. Knock on wood, not going to say that 6-letter word that I hate, but it's just with who you got behind you, that might be where the biggest drop-off were to happen should something terrible happen.
Look to the Broncos.
And you wouldn't be able to recover from that. So I definitely think that is a position that the Chargers should keep their ears open for the next 3 weeks as far as bringing in another body at safety.
Yep, safety. And honestly, it doesn't even have to technically be safety. Like, I think one of the benefits of Brandon Staley's scheme is you can kind of be versatile. So, look for the Broncos at that depth for both corner and safety. They are loaded in the secondary. So when they start having to do cuts, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Ronaldo Hill and Brandon Staley are like, hey, come on over.
Yeah, and I apologize. I totally forgot the whole reason I even brought up Kyzir White for that was because when the Chargers drafted Kyzir White, he had played safety out of West Virginia. But obviously, look what he's done at the linebacker spot. And it's been insane. I mean, he wasn't even doing this prior to the flashes of the year that we saw from him when he played 8 games before going down to an injury when he was really balling out. He wasn't even doing this in the preseason that year. So to see him already hit the ground running like this in a new defensive scheme is just so awesome. So I'm excited to see how Brandon Staley is going to deploy this. But the reason that I asked Chris Harry that is because, well, you do have a little bit of an experience because you do have a guy who played at West Virginia at safety. If you needed him in an emergency situation, you could use him. You could use him. As Brandon Staley says, he flies around like a safety. So he has that speed to play that position.
Yep. Another question came in, and you're going to love this one, Jake. We're talking all about the kickers for a sec, if I could find the question. Jake, how many kickers should be on this team?
If the league could make an exception that the Chargers could dress 5 kickers on a roster, obviously that's not going to happen, but if they could have an exception like that, that might be the way to go. Because at this point, it seems like every single day, there's a new guy leading the pack. As of right now, this guy Ano seems to have the lead of the pack. Why? Because he's the kicker who just made 5 out of 5 kicks in practice. It is so pathetic that is the barometer that we have to go off of to decide, hey, that's our guy. Because Michael Badgley only goes 3 for 5 in practice, did the same thing at FanFest. But because Vizcaino went perfect, that's the guy. That's who we're getting behind. Tomorrow, it could change. Who knows? This whole kicking situation is so wacky right now. I can't even put my finger on it.
If the Chargers come out tomorrow and with news that we have released Michael Badgley, how'd you feel?
I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like, okay, well, to me, I would think of it to say, okay, well, now they've seen enough of that. They're now going to put all of their faith in these two kickers, Vizcaino, who has some experience, and Alex Kessman, who is a undrafted rookie free agent, but has huge potential because of the records that he broke in Pitt. But I mean, come on. Me to everyone out there. How much do you trust the Chargers kicking situation regardless of who it is? Honestly.
How much do the Chargers trust the Chargers kicking situation outside of 50?
There you go. You go.
And I will say, well, first off, shout out to Derek Ford. I don't know if I've seen your name come in here before for commenting. If I have, apologies. Welcome. Few folks have commented about Justin Jones and how excited they are for him going into this year, commenting how big he is compared to years past. Justin Jones looks pretty good. I like what I'm seeing from Justin Jones and Cortez Broughton. Like there's depth of the defensive line that we haven't had before, which should be fun. I will say my official ticket for kickers has been punched for Vizcaino. I saw him at FanFest. I think he has a much more lively leg than a Michael Badgley, which is also important for kicking field goals, but just as important for making sure that a kickoff goes into the damn end zone. So I think he's going to be the kicker if I have my betting money on something, but who knows? It could be Jake Hefner by the time it's all said and done.
Dan, I just figured out exactly what the Chargers' first drive is going to be week 1 against the Washington football team.
Is it going to end like a 53-yard field goal?
That's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to start at our own 20 because it's going to be a touchback. Herbert's going to drive most of the field, and then all of a sudden the drive's going to stall.
With a holding penalty.
Because the Chargers are who they are, and their middle name is Irony, especially when it comes to the kicking game. Their first scoring attempt is going to have to be a 53-yard kicking attempt. How pissed off, how much are you just going to drop your head and just take a big, deep breath to go, holy crap, are we going to make this or are we not going to make this?
But imagine if we made it. Like, that would be like the Super Bowl.
Celebrate, man. But then on the flip side of that, imagine if we don't make it.
I don't want to think about that.
The tension is so palpable
I know,
when it comes to the Chargers fans and their kicking situation right now. Like, the slightest thing could just set this volcano off.
I will say, I do not, I mean, I know it's pressure for all kickers, but given the history of this team and kickers, like, I do not envy folks who are trying to come in and make a spot on this roster of the kicking game. Like, the scar tissue is just so thick with this fan base. It's brutal. I just hope it doesn't come down to a 53-yard field goal because, man, we are going to be in our feelings week 1. So, Jake, who's your guy for kicking? Are you putting it on Vizcaino right now?
Vizcaino has the lead right now. I won't go back on my original pick was Alex Kessman because I really liked his leg. I thought he was stronger than Badgley, especially when it comes to kickoff. So I thought he had a lot more potential. But man, did he flame out on the day of FanFest. What was it, 2 for 6 that he ended up going for? So who knows whether or not he's going to be able to make a comeback from that. It seems like Vizcaino's got a pretty sizable lead on him. So as of right now, it's Vizcaino and Badgley to me battling it out. But yeah, 5 for 5. He should be the guy everybody is looking at because he went 5 for 5. And that's literally the only reason that I could say it. It could be a completely different story tomorrow. If he goes 3 for 5, we just say, well, back to a pick'em game, back to square one on this. Who the hell knows is going to win this damn competition?
We are rounding out our preview of week 1 versus the Rams. If you have not already, take 2 seconds, give us a like and subscribe. Hit the bell notifications so you can get notified whenever we go live, because folks have been commenting that they missed it until the very last minute here. But it's okay. We'll still let them in. Shred74 or Sherd74 needed to think of a quick question. He came up with the question. I'm going to let this one go to you, Jake. What contract is the toughest contract to sign? Top 3 rookies, first big contract, aging productive player contract. Like, of the contracts, you have the rookie ones, which really don't have much wiggle room, realistically. You have, like, the veteran ones, so let's call it, like, the Richard Sherman type. Or, like, you have the Keenan Allen one, who just got paid his biggest contract. Or Joey Bosa in that realm. Which one of those would you say is the hardest for, let's look at it from a player perspective. Which one of those is the hardest to sign?
I'd say it's the first big contract would probably be my guess. If I'm a GM, hell, we're in some circumstance when we talk about the offseason for the Chargers and free agency, we're all armchair GMs, really. So why don't we use the example of Hunter Henry? When you evaluate Hunter Henry's tenure with the Chargers, Dan and I said this multiple times. Did we think above the rest of the priority free agents that we had on this team that I'm happy that he got his money, but for all the priorities that we had for on this team, we couldn't have shelled that money out to him, because if you did, you have to think of the other free agents that you have a smaller chance of getting. There could be a much smaller chance that you get a Corey Linsley, a much less chance that you may have been able to sign Michael Davis to a long-term contract. And personally, I would have rather taken those two over Hunter Henry. And considering what you got Jared Cook for, and for what he's doing in camp right now, and you brought in Donald Parham last year, and he's already starting to develop into that nice number 2, you go out and you draft Trey McKitty. You know, those are just hard decisions. But yeah, to highlight that as an example, Hunter Henry got his money, and I'm happy that he got it. But in this circumstance, I'm equally as happy that we weren't the ones to pay him, because we may have not gotten certain players if we ended up doing it. So yeah, that contract, when you really have to evaluate the 4 or the 5 year period and then match that up with market value of what's out there and what they're looking for, it's tough.
I agree. Steven Sullivan, thank you for the like and the thumbs up. I appreciate you. Jake appreciates you too. You're right, Jake. There's a lot of guys that are going to be fighting for jobs, and this roster is going to need to get trimmed before week 1 at Washington football team at FedEx Field. But you know what else needs to get trimmed? Are folks both at the gym. I need to get trimmed. I'm working on my workout regimen, trying to have a 6-pack, trying to do a pull-up. But a lot of people are also trying to trim down some hairs wherever they have them. And in a place that you can get all of your male and female grooming needs, manscaped.com. Check them out. Use the code LAFB20. You can save 20% and free shipping.
Fantastic
segue. You might not be able to trim your roster, but you can trim other things that might need some assistance that other folks may enjoy afterwards if you do. Not just trimmers. They've got ball deodorants. They've got anti-chafing boxers. Jake's trying to keep a straight face.
Because it was a fantastic segue, sir. That was one of your best segues. Please continue.
Okay. So yeah, LAFB20. Use the code at manscaped.com. Get free shipping. Get all of your male grooming needs at manscaped.com. Another one, Jake, tight end position. Blue Deftone brings in a topic here. We've seen a ton from Jared Cook. We've seen a ton from Donald Parham. Do you think Donald Parham is going to be our tight end 1? I think it's a 2-part question here, because long-term, I think both of us would say yes. Would you agree?
I can say it has the potential to be that, yes.
Do you think he has the possibility of becoming tight end 1 this year?
No.
Me neither. If you have not seen Jared Cook in training camp, like, he is very good. And Jake mentioned on a previous episode, he has not been utilized appropriately in his past offense the last few years. This guy is supremely talented and is very smooth. Like, this guy looks good. He's from an offensive weapon perspective, not necessarily blocking, but just as a pass catching tight end, he's better than Hunter Henry, hands down. No question about it.
I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to say that he hasn't been utilized properly. I think when the Chargers brought him in free agency, because of course all of our minds, after we knew that we weren't getting Hunter Henry, we started looking elsewhere for tight ends. And obviously we knew we weren't going to get some of the big names that went, but we started looking at some lower level guys. And when they started getting picked up by Seattle here or other places, we're like, oh God, who are we going to take? And when Jared Cook came in, a lot of us are like, okay, so we connect the dots. Joe Lombardi, New Orleans, we understand that connection. But you didn't really think that a guy at that age maybe had that much juice left. Holy crap, has Jared Cook just given us the proverbial smack on the head and said, watch this. He's looked incredible in camp thus far. And this is what I'm excited about, because Jared Cook did not have a Donald Parham in New Orleans. And to think about the mismatches that both of these guys are going to create, because even when Hunter Henry was on this team, Hunter Henry, when you look at the guys that we had last year, you had Virgil Green, you had Steven Anderson, you had Donald Parham, who still, again, wasn't really utilized that much in last year's offense until late in the season. But Hunter Henry was your pass-catching tight end. Everybody else, aside from Parham, was really your blocking options, and that's how they were utilized. Again, Steven Anderson was utilized in the passing game very little. He got his towards the end of the season, which was good. But now you have two guys that have so many physical advantages over the opposing defenses. They both can catch. They both can run. They both can outpower opposing defenders. And to see them line up in two tight end sets in the red zone, when you already have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams on the outside, give me a break, man. I mean, this is like, it's almost like cheat codes in Madden. Like, hey, man, all I know is that one of these dudes are going to be open. And you'd be damn sure that Justin Herbert's going to find one of them.
Yes. Shout out Benjamin Bettenhausen. Hey, love what you guys are doing. Keep it coming. Thank you, Benjamin. If you like us so much, give us a like and a subscribe out there. I know, Benjamin, thank you so much for listening and watching. This is fun. Jake, I was just saying, as we were talking about the tight ends, we're talking about Jared Cook, talking about Donald Parham. I'm imagine like 4th and goal from the 7. And you're Justin Herbert, and you've got Eckler in the backfield. You've got Parham, and you've got Cook split out. You're 5 wide. Maybe let's call it 4 wide. And you've got, let's say, Austin Proehl, and you've got Keenan Allen. Or you can interchange Austin Proehl with Mike Williams. You pick, doesn't matter. Like, if you're
Josh
a defense,
Palmer probably interchange with Mike Williams a little bit more.
like if you're a defense, who are you most worried about getting the ball thrown to? Like, every single one of them is a mismatch. Even Austin Proehl, like, he's hard to cover. That guy's wiggly. I'm thinking of Justin Herbert just sitting there like, all right, well, who's the worst defender? And I'll throw that way. That's crazy. Favi has a question about fullbacks. I haven't talked fullbacks in a while. Gabe Neighbors. Jake, do you think there is actually a need for a fullback on this team?
I'm still of the old school football mentality that yes, you do. And let's not forget, Gabe Neighbors and Justin Herbert are like this.
True.
So
they literally room together.
I think that this would be a lot like an Aaron Rodgers situation where it's like, don't cut the guy's best friend off the roster. It's not good for team morale. We've seen how that has developed and unfortunately deteriorated in Green Bay. So, but yeah, I do. Gabe Neighbors caught a touchdown from Justin Herbert last year. So Gabe Nabors has always had, he was let's just say he was a different type of fullback when he came in, because it was between him and who was Bobby Holly. I think last year was the war between the two. And
he was the more versatile of the two.
Yep. But all of us, when we saw Bobby Holly pulling a truck, we're like, okay, that's a traditional fullback that we need to just come in there and knock someone in the mouth. Give it more than a year. Gabe Nabors, I still think it has a lot of potential that he can unlock. You got to get back a little bit of what you had from Derek Watt. While Derek Watt wasn't the most spectacular fullback, he did a lot of things that Gabe Nabors can do. He can block and he can catch. So I'm interested to see how he's going to be utilized going from one year to the next.
Yep. Yeah, I will say in training camp, you are seeing Gabe Nabors catching lots of balls out of the backfield, out of the flats, which I wasn't expecting. So I wouldn't be surprised if we kept him. But honestly, like, of all of the positions, there are so many positions up for grabs and so little available that I just don't know if they're going to have one. I don't know. That's a good question. I really don't know if they're going to have fullback on this roster. Sure.
Okay, let me just ask. Would you keep Darius Bradwell or would you keep Gabe Nabors?
Gabe Nabors. But I don't know. That's going to be interesting. Yes, Justin Herbert needs someone to share briskets with. And Benjamin, who has a good brisket recipe, by the way? Jake, I think you have a smoker, right?
I have a smoker. I want to do this. I have not done it for briskets yet. I've done it for tri-tip, but it's a pineapple juice. It's almost like a Hawaiian pineapple marinade that I make. And I have not done it yet for briskets, and I will plan to do that because the marinade is so good on the tri-tip. I can't wait to try it on a brisket.
Okay. Speaking of food, real quick, we're rounding out this episode, so we're going to talk about something completely unrelated to this. Jake, I saw something today about someone, I forget who it was. They eat mac and cheese with ketchup.
Patrick Mahomes, probably, right?
No, it was someone on NFL Network, I believe. I think it was Dan Orlovsky. And so I guess two questions. One, would you ever do that? And two, what's the weirdest food pairing that you do?
The weirdest food pairing that I do? I don't know if I necessarily have.
Your McDonald's burger thing is pretty weird.
My what?
Your McDonald's burger thing.
Yeah, but plenty of people do that. It's not like the new thing. Yes, I enjoy when I get 2 double cheeseburgers, I get a side of fries, I take a handful of fries, I throw it on the burger, and I put some honey mustard on that, and I combine it, and I eat it. Take off the honey mustard thing. I'm sure that there's other people that have done that, but it's fucking delicious is what it is. No, for me, I'm very traditional with my food. I even eat my things in order. So if I have pancakes, eggs, and bacon, I eat things in order. I don't mix them up. So the bacon's always the first thing to go because I don't really enjoy syrup getting on my bacon. And then the eggs will go. And then, of course, the pancakes are last because it's always the best part. And syrup doesn't get on anything else. So I always eat my certain things in very sequential order. But I'm weird like that. Who cares?
Benjamin Bettenhausen puts olive oil and balsamic vinegar over rice and bean burrito.
Say what now?
What?
Wow.
What? Mustard on a waffle? Sure, okay. 74.
This show has now gone completely
We're done.
Sideways.
That's making ketchup and mac and cheese sound delicious.
Holy crap.
Man, all right. We are wrapping up the preview episode, Chargers Unleashed, going through what to expect for week 1, just in a couple days of preseason. Jake, we can't go much further without talking about our good friends over at Brewery X up in Anaheim. They have an amazing assortment of beers, of seltzers, and honestly, of really good food. They have an awesome outdoor patio session as well. And Jake, they came out with
is ridiculous.
Yeah, the pizza's super good. They have a new hazy IPA called the NAR. For folks who like IPAs, this is your spot. And for folks who like seltzers, I guarantee you'll find one here that you like. And if you're just wanting to get tanked,
much. I'll just say that much. It doesn't take much. They can be addicting if you're don't mind a hangover in the morning. This is
almost like Jake's talking from experience. Anyways, syrup on bacon is the best. People are asking about chili sauce. You got folks just laughing their asses off at what this conversation has turned into. Jake, I think it's time that we end this. I think it's time we go ahead and focus on all things preseason football. You've got the second half of the Redskins-Patriots games. We get the Eagles that were playing as well. Football is back. And then as a quick sneak peek tease of things to come, man, do we have some fun coming up in these next weeks.
Let's just say, make sure that you have that notification bell on for specifically Saturday morning. If you want something to put you in the mood for the Chargers game on Sunday or Saturday night, make sure you have the notification bell on our YouTube channel, because there will be a very, very, very special guest joining the show with us. And cannot wait to get that episode out to you.
Yeah, we've got special guests coming this weekend. We've got special guests coming next week that folks are going to love. And this is about to blow up into something crazier and crazier and crazier. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Quick shout out to everyone who has been here. Michael Daly comes in with the lightning bolts, talking about chicken and waffles. Sherd74, Favi. We've got folks from New Zealand at 3 p.m. at this point. Benjamin Butenhausen. We've got Blue Deftone or Boston. Shout out to the Bay Area. Guys, this has been I almost went an entire episode without saying the word.
You almost did it.
I almost did it. So we're going to wrap it up right now. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you have not already, please hit us up with a like and a subscribe. Hit us up on Twitter. You can find us at LAC_Unleash. You can also find us on Facebook. Jake's beautiful mug can be seen at Jake T. Hefner on Twitter. Myself at Chargers Homer. Folks, if you guys want to take guesses at who you think is going to be on the next show, please feel free. Put out those guesses on LAC_Unleash on Twitter, and we will let you know if you're right or wrong. Michael Daly, you're welcome for the shout out. Jake, anything else you want to tell the great people before we head out?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, even if they're right, we can't give it away. So we'll just say,
we'll tell them the right after the fact, whenever it's out.
Yeah, after the fact. So check your Twitter on Sunday if you end up guessing who it is, and we'll tell you, hey, pat you on the back, give you the proverbial attaboy on Twitter. So
I will say, Michael Daly, we have talked to Dan Fouts on this show. If you do not see it, go back and check it out. But it is not Dan Fouts. So until then, this is Jake Hefner, Dan Wolkenstein. No, it's not LT either. Nice try, though, Michael Daly. We'll talk to you next time on Chargers Unleashed. Have a great rest of the afternoon. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Chargers football on Saturday, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great afternoon, and go.